So recently, Dave Burt, who's one of the key players in shorting the housing market, they made a big movie after them, The Big Short. He wasn't in the movie, but he was an associate of the guy who was played by Brad Pitt. Is in the news again because this time he's claiming he's going to short the housing market again. What's making him so sure that the housing market's going to crash again? And more importantly, how did we get to this point? What happened with housing values? Today in this video, we're going to talk about that. And at the very end, if this video spooks you still, I'll give you guys some tips. If you call up your grandpa, your grandma right now, and you ask them, hey, what's a good solid investment for me to make? Most likely they will tell you housing. Housing has always been a very safe and solid investment. Frankly, you don't need to be a genius to make money in it. And especially these last 10 years, anybody with a decent mortgage can make a pretty penny. According to data analysis by Black Knight Incorporated, the 24-year average appreciation rate of homes is supposed to be about 3.9%. This means if you buy a home for $200,000, the next year it should be worth about $207,000 and like $600 around there. And what made this such a solid model for most people is two valid reasons: the whole supply and demand, and of course the greed of people. If you live in a neighborhood and you live in it and you see other people trying to sell it at a certain price, you're going to think your house is better, so you're going to slowly increase it. But what makes them get away with this is this whole supply and demand issue. Pretty simple. The more people employed with higher wages equals people have the bigger budgets for a home, therefore demand goes up. And of course, the lower interest rates go, the more people can afford a mortgage, and demand goes up again. And of course, as minimum wage is rising, the median household income is rising, we're assuming that we're going to be in a nice healthy market where it's slowly just steadily growing. Here's the problem though. This housing market has been on steroids for the last 10 years. I think it was needed. There was obviously a big housing crash in the late 2000s, and the housing values tanked at a really low amount. This was devastating. If housing isn't secure, if people aren't able to buy a home in the United States, then their morale is weak. For the last 10 years, there's been a lot of incentives for first-time home buyers to buy a home again. They're trying to promote home ownership. Interest rates have been low. Down payment assistance have been coming out. Free money has been giving out to people so they can go, hey, please buy a house, please buy a house. And this steroid increase was effective. Do you remember on the first Captain America movie how he was all weak and skinny, and then he turned into this really buff, handsome looking guy who now your wife decides to say his name sometimes while you're sleeping, and you're just wondering, why are you saying Captain America? That movie came out a few years ago. It's interesting. Well, like I said, it's been on steroids, and it's continuing to go up at a rapid amount. And 3.9%, that's a funny number. Let me show you some things. In Arizona, 2014, our average sold price was $280,000, right? In 2015, our average sold price was $294,000. That's closer to 5%. Not too bad. 3.9 is pretty close to there. 2015, $294,000 average sold price. 2016, $310,000. So that's another $16,000 increase. 2016, $310,712, and 2017, $331,000. So this has been working. They have been trying to promote home ownership, and obviously, home real estate agents and homeowners and everybody and their mom have been taking advantage of these programs for the last 10 years. People started buying homes again, and as you can see here, home values were going up, and around like 2017 to 18, I think we were close or catching up or about the same percentage of the average household price in the United States. We were about closer to where we were at the height of the crash. So things were looking good. The housing market was looking strong. And what should have happened was we should have stopped giving the incentives away. Captain America's already buff. Let's stop giving him steroids. So there was an attempt of doing this. I remember the day. I still remember the client. I have the video here. I don't know why I decided to rock a goatee. It's just what I decided to do, so go with it. I even talked about it here where the interest rates for down payment assistance were always cheap, but out of nowhere they bumped up like 1% to 2%. So all of a sudden the new standard became, hey, if you want an assistance program, you still have to pay a higher interest rate. And I believe this was their attempt to try to slow things down so that way people wouldn't be using this program so much. And I'll never forget the day where I was out showing houses to a client. This just happened, and their brother, who was being a complete asshole, to be honest with you, was telling me that I don't know what the hell I was doing because he bought a home a few months ago and his interest rate was cheap and that he needed to get a second opinion. Whatever. I mean, I might have fought him or not. Let's just say somebody went to the doctor that day. It was me. I got my butt kicked. And you would think it would start to slow down, but however, check this out. 2018 to 2019, we went from 361, the 384. So if you look at the housing values here, you're noticing it's starting to look like a little like a bubble, right? It looks more like a boil or a bump of sorts. I don't think we should have just increased the interest rate of down payment assistance program. I think we should have just gotten rid of them. We should have made housing harder to buy because, frankly, we needed the demand to drop and it needed to kind of start stabilizing so it can go to that healthy 3.9% steady little flow, not a bump, right? So they didn't do that. They kept things nice and cheap. They made DPA just maybe a very slight punishment. And here's the thing, guys. In these 10 years, you didn't need to be a genius to make money. You buy a house, you live in it, you sell it 3 years later, you make 40, 50 grand because houses were just appreciating at such a high level. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm guilty of this too. When if you look at my earlier videos, when my first year of making videos on YouTube, I talk a lot about how buying a house is a no-brainer because it's a solid investment. You're going to make money on something instead of, yeah, it's true. I mean, for the last 10 years, it's been true. It's been a very solid investment. You can make a lot of more money, a lot of return on your money by just simply buying a house, living in it, and selling it years down the road. You could use it as a vehicle carrying you forward, right? And now, here we are, 2020. 2020 should have been the slowdown we needed. Looking at the numbers now, it would have helped us to really slow down on housing. It would have helped us even to go down a little, even slight. It would have a nice little correction where we went the air to here, like a nice little sharp, would have helped. In my opinion, it would have hurt some people. There have been some foreclosures, but I believe we would have been okay. But what happened? Well, a few things happened. Home builders decided to go crazy in April. There was a huge demand for new houses all of a sudden because obviously the whole situation happening with the crazy market, and it was really hard for first-time home buyers to buy a home. And instead of just not buying, having the weaker people who are unable to buy not buy, they went for new builders. And new builders are easy to get. They qualify you, you wait, and there's just a huge more demand. And now we can actually see new builders who are increasing at a rapid rate. Their model that was maybe going for this amount is now going for this amount literally just 4 or 5 months later. Of course, they have some reasoning and some validation behind it because of the lumber prices going up, but resales don't. You know how I told you the average sold price in 2019 was $384,825 in my state? So far, as of November 2020, the average sold price, sorry, I just saw it and it made me lose my thinking here. Average sold price is now $441,141. That's about 15% increase from last year. In an attempt to, I guess, keep the housing market strong, interest rates were dropped significantly. As everyone knows at this point, I mean, if you have a realtor friend or cousin, you heard the news. Interest rates are cheap. And this has brought more people to buy. It's caused competition. And of course, now here we are. Like I said earlier, the lower interest rates are, the more people can afford a mortgage. And the more people can afford a mortgage, the prices go up. And baby, oh baby, have they been going up. And here we are now. A lot of first-time home buyers are scared. People are not sure what's going to happen with the market. And frankly, everyone is in a state of panic right now. They're in a state of shock because the way they understood housing is no longer valid. Everyone used to consider housing a very solid investment. And I will say, as of right now, 2021, in a few months, housing is no longer a safe and solid investment. It is now a gamble. You don't know if the housing values are going to go up. You don't know if they're going to go down. You cannot be buying a home now for the sole reason of, hey, it's a safe investment. My grandpa says it's good, so it's going to be good. No. So that being said, why is Dave Burt shorting the housing market again? Well, in 2019, he actually said the reason why he was shorting the housing market was because of climate risk. According to here on this article, he says the risk of flood, fires, and winds increase, and the cost of owning a home will go up. Costs from higher insurance rate, higher taxes, and uninsured losses. As the costs go up, the value of homes go down, and consequently, the mortgage on the home is a higher risk of default. And of course, the higher risk of mortgage defaults we have, the higher risk of a housing market crash happening, right? So I don't disagree with him here. If you notice, actually, property taxes have been going up quite a lot. Now, one of the things that I've said and a lot of realtors are saying is that, hey, your interest rate is going to be fixed. It's going to be nice and cheap. If you can buy a house, you can afford it. It's going to be nice and cheap. You'll be fine. But the thing is your house prices will go up if your property taxes go up. It does adjust on your monthly payment, and if your hazard insurance goes up, it does adjust in your monthly payment. His concern is this is going to lead to more natural disasters, and the hazard insurance are going to go up. And combine this with property tax increase, it's going to slowly make these houses less affordable, and especially in states that are higher risk with like near a beach, or they have a lot more natural disasters and hurricanes, people are just gonna up and walk away, and it's gonna probably cause a chain effect of things. So according to Dave, he says COVID has created a lot of problems fundamentally for the systems that support the housing market and have potentially been contributing to the mispricing of the climate risk and asset values, namely that insurance premiums are too low. Now listen, I'm just a guy on YouTube, real estate agent, help home buyers and sellers. I'm sure my knowledge is maybe 1,000th of what he knows. He's obviously way smarter than a lot of us. And I agree with him in ways. He looks at the numbers and he sees a potential thing happening. For me, though, what I'm reading all this, it really just solidifies one thing in my brain, is the way you think about buying a home should change from now on. These last 10 years have been good to us. As a matter of fact, they've been too good to us. They probably had made us a little lazy. They made a lot of people a lot of money. You get an average Joe Schmo who sells a house or two, and that makes it, $10,000 to $100,000, and now he thinks he's a big shot, right? And not only that, but you're buying a house because you heard your brother, uncle, aunt, grandpa sold a house after owning it for 3 years and make $40,000, $50,000 tax free, and you're saying, hey, it's going to be that easy for me too. It's no longer going to be that easy. As I said earlier, the way you buy a house is going to be different. You should not be looking at it as a solid, secure investment. It's going to be a risk. So the reason you should be buying a house is for these two reasons. You need to buy a house because you need it. You look at you need to live in a house. You want a backyard for your dog. The cost of renting a house in your area is a lot more expensive than owning one, so you're just going to own it. And frankly, it's a long-term investment for you. Like, how do you make a gamble less of a risk? You have it for a longer term, right? If you're trying to sell in 2 years and make 40,000 like your cousin Eddie did, it's not happening. It might happen if a gamble goes right, but it also couldn't happen. The second reason is you just need to be prepared, and you need to be saving like a maniac. And if you are buying a house soon, you need to continue to save, okay? If he's really concerned about insurance premiums going up or down because of a natural disaster or something happening to your home, he's right. It's maybe not a natural disaster in your state, but a lot of people don't save for like your AC breaking or, God forbid, a health thing that might happen to you, maybe necessarily with your house. So if you get a big fat monthly payment and a thing pops up that you weren't expecting, all it takes is that to really affect your finances. So the second thing is you really need to save, okay? We need people who are prepared and just saving like a maniac, even after you buy a home, because you just need to prepare for the worst that could happen to you. So if you buy a house and you keep it long term and you continue to save in case of emergency with house or personal reasons, then you should pretty much be protected from any risk of the housing market going up or down. So regarding if I think he's right, I mean, geez Louise, he knows way more than I do. But I will say is I'm hoping there's an adjustment soon. I'm hoping that, people just start laying off houses for a bit, demand starts dropping a bit, because frankly, we need to stop doing this and we need to start going like this. There's a Democratic nominee that won, and they tend to be a little stronger with climate change and whatnot. Maybe they start taking action and measures to prevent these disasters from happening, or just helping so they don't happen as much in the future. And perhaps these banks who have these forbearances that are coming up are working on programs to help people so they don't automatically get foreclosed on when it's time to pay back. But as for now, who knows? What do you guys think? Do you think he's right? Do you think he's wrong? What route are you taking? Are you deciding to wait? Are you still buying regardless of everything that's happened? Let's have a conversation below. I'm looking forward to what you think. And once again, please, hashtag no bullying Javier for his goatee that he decided to rock 2 years ago.